again for another transfer special. Hi, I'm Andy Thompson. Welcome to your Shitballs podcast or Zoomcast. Joining me tonight is South Cumbria's finest, Dan Payne, and West Cumbria's finest, Jordan Weir. How are we doing?
You've got problems if he's South Cumbria's finest.
I did want to hammer him. I did. I didn't want to give him it, but then I just thought I've just been hammering him for the last 3 or 4 minutes before we got on this, so I better be nice to him before we get going.
Well, it's not your fault the brother kicked his shit out of him, is it? So
there he is, in the background as well, with his 2 trophies. Although, like we said, he's got a nice big boxing trophy at home, hasn't he? Dan, what did Tom get a big red boxing trophy for? Do you remember?
Are you still talking to me?
Do you remember what I said about you having suspect men behind you, by the way? And it looks wrong on camera.
He puts himself in compromising positions every week, does Daniel?
I do.
I'm so happy I waited till the video started before we did that. Because we'll put this video up on YouTube as well, so we can see our lovely pale faces.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Mate, you've been abroad, and honestly, I can't tell any difference.
To be fair, mate, it rained 2 days, so...
And I think if it wasn't for my beard and my eyes, I'd have probably merged him with my background. I think Payne is down to his makeup tutorial light that he's got on the go.
Oh, his contour light.
Beautiful light.
Oh, he's
beautiful.
He's got one of these flashlight stands on there with like a 12-year-old girl. So that's it. His TikTok will be next to how to put contour on and how to blend in and how to this and how to
TikTok
that.
live.
Oh, it can't be any worse. Can't be any worse than your TikTok video. That you doing a makeup tutorial.
You want me to do a makeup tutorial?
Yeah, do it.
Listen,
go on.
Look,
purple eyeshadow for you.
This needs no makeup. This is just natural beauty. All right.
You should do makeup and bring back the blonde streak as well.
That was a great streak. That was a great streak.
I
remember when I had to get rid of that streak, and I dyed it blue rather than blonde, so it didn't look as well, whatever the word is. Yeah, inconspicuous.
Suspect. Oh shit! It was shit.
Yeah,
That's why he went round with a big dinosaur head on all the time, just to cover it up.
You're loving this mascot lark, aren't you?
I want to find the photo. This is why, right? So flicking through your Facebook, thinking, he must have the dinosaur photo on. And that's when all the blonde streak hair, like with your hair dyeing it, all came in. That's what I thought. I've got him in for that as well. Right. I think it's about the similar time as well.
He was stalking my Facebook.
Oh yeah. I was going to say
nice?
I was going to say something dirty there, but I'm not going to because it's on camera, isn't
it? Never stopped you before.
I've grown up now. I'm an adult. Suppose we better get into the science. It's a transfer special. Let's get into it. So, Barrow finally signed an halfback. This is one, obviously, I was begging for. It was last season. We're going on about it in the group chats, everything like that, long before we're doing this. And yeah, how we feel about this then? Alex Bishop coming in for Keithley, the former Haverman as well.
Well, I know, obviously, Jordan will know more about Alex than we probably will, but from my perspective, I don't know if I'm going to name them, because I don't think that's fair, but they had a choice of 3 to choose from. And after a few conversations with former teammates, it came across that Bishop was the right choice because he offers something a little bit different. That was a line that Paul told me as well. And that's the sort of thing he was looking for, just something a little bit different to what everybody else had. So they took the best of the 3 that they had to choose from, and Bishop's come in, and he's going to see a few options now, because I think that with Walker not being a natural halfback, I think he's still considering playing there, and maybe you can have the rotation of Bishop with Walker and Johnston as well. I imagine Kingy's, well, again, we'll come to Jordan for this, but is he a loose forward? Is he a second row? Is he an halfback? What does Kingy want to do? So I think the point is they've got good options, and Bishop just gives them another great option and offers something a little bit different.
So I've said to you a few times, especially when we've been on the radio and that, I'd like to see Walker as a loose forward. Put Kingy in second row, and I've Walker loose forward as a third pivot really. And we've seen his kicking in, we've seen his ball handling. We know he can do it, and I reckon he'd be able to take the ball in as well if he had to, wouldn't he?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because it's a good it's a good headache to have. If
Yeah,
they're staying fit, you've got that option, and you can put them in any of them positions, and I'm sure they'll do a great job. But week on week, you could throw an absolute curveball on your opponents, and they won't know who's going to play where. And I imagine when we see the friendlies and at the start of the season in the 1895 and things like that, I think we're going to see this rotation kick in and just try and find where they're more suited. I know Paul likes a little bit of stability in rugby league. It's hard to find that because it's hard to get the same 13 or 17 fit the same week. But it will be an interesting pre-season for sure. For the first 3 months as we get through the start of this summer rugby on the muddy pitches, it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
You're right there with Bish. Obviously, his time at Whitehaven, his 2 seasons at Whitehaven really impacted through injury, but he's come in that first season and probably struggled on them muddy pitches in the first opening weeks, but we're really starting to see the best of him probably at 9 until he smashed his kneecap in that last minute against St Helens in the Challenge Cup. And I think with Josh Wood and Adam Smith, you'd imagine he's been signed, obviously played 6, obviously not. I think Keighley probably used him in a bit of a utility role. I think he had a few injuries at Keighley last year as well. So I think that'd be the only problem with Bish is if you can keep him fit. But if you can keep him fit, injury-free, and get a full season out of him, get some consistency out of him, you've got a cracking halfback. You really have got a cracking halfback who can play 9 for you and will do a spell at 9 if needed. He's an experienced head. Obviously played at a decent level down under, and fetched that into his game into the UK. And if you can get into sort of a partnership with, you'd imagine it would be Ryan Johnson majority of the time. And then you've got Brad Walker at 13. If Kingy can just play a second row, and he hasn't got to do anything else, which he's maybe had to do at Whitehaven in the last few seasons, whether it be lead at 13, put himself in at half. If he can just nail down, I mean, it'll probably be even better than what he has been in a Whitehaven shirt in the last, if he can just get some consistency and nail down a position. So it's looking really good for the Raiders, isn't it, in terms of, sort of depth and options that obviously the Crest is going to have there next season, because you've obviously, as would be expected now, obviously Cumbria's only representative in the Championship. I just want to see the massive smiles come across your face in a minute. But like I say, you've took your pick from Worthington and Whitehaven in the last few seasons. Obviously, signed Kingy, signed Curtis Taylor going ahead for this season, signed Bully in previous seasons. Obviously, Tom Walker left Whitehaven and obviously ended up at Barrow the season after. So he's really getting some depth there. He's Crester, and like I say, if you can have that 13, 17, whoever it's going to be, your strongest week in, week out more often than not, hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a struggle next season for the Raiders.
So we'll stick with the halfback theme. Beth Pattinson has now rejoined Barrow Raiders ladies after taking a year off to have a second child. So that'll be a great one to, especially with Jodie Liverland retiring now as well and going into the coaching setup there. I think from the times I've seen Beth play, she was a really solid option.
Yeah, I think that was always going to be the case. Jodie had to play through the pain barrier for a lot of, especially for last season as well. And I think she was just dragging out the impeding retirement, ready for somebody to come and fill them boots. And we knew that Beth was capable. I'm not putting him on the same level, as a player, but I mean, she offers something a little bit different to what Liverland can. But in terms of that position, then yeah, she slots in great for that. So I'm sure that Amanda is glad that she decided to come back after having another child, and looking forward to watching her in the team again and watching to see how this Raiders team goes this year, especially because I think there's big expectations on them now this year. Hannah Sherlock moving on as well. She was somewhat of a fan favourite, but Amanda's took the big punt there with her and said that she's not ready to take the step up to where she wants to go. And then obviously we've seen Sam Norman and Hutchinson move on for a year, so they'll be back next year. But as for this year, then yeah, it's going to be a bit of an indifferent season, I think, for Barrow. But there's a lot of people that need to step up, and I think Amanda's the great coach to get the best out of these players and coming up from the reserves as well. And Jodie as well, moving down to the under-19s set up now as well. So the future is looking good for Barrow. And it's going to be interesting to see how they go.
So we'll move into West Cumbria now. Haven, side front row, Brad Brennan. Obviously, we've seen him a few times when he's back in his Barrow days. Obviously, it's very early in his career there.
Who's Brad?
I think, in his early days, obviously, I'm going back a long time here. I think he started off a bit cold, and he just got better and better than he as the season went on. And So he got to the point where he was one of them players who's quite sad to see him leave the club, to be honest.
Massive fan favourite, isn't he? Everywhere he goes, he comes across like that. He's just an absolute cannonball, wrecking ball, is Big Brad. And I can't believe when his age came up, did it say he's 31? I feel like I've been watching him forever. I feel like I was a kid when I first seen Brad, when he came down to Barrow with his missus and that. But yeah, he's I think when he was at Barrow, we spoke to Paul about when he moved Brad on. He still stays in touch with Brad, and he loves seeing his development. But he never quite reached the levels of where Paul wanted him. But at the same time, he can give you a massive 10, 15-minute stint. You know what I mean? He makes a huge impact when he comes out of that field, and I think that's probably what stopped him move on in the higher levels. The fact that it is 10, 15 minutes, really high level, and rather than 30 or 40 minutes, or if need be, an 80-minute shift. I'm not saying he can't do that, but I'm saying the level that his impact that he has in them opening 10, 15 minutes, that's where he peaked really. But it's still very effective, and it's worked out for him, and he's going to be one to watch, I think, in League One with the working team this year. Whitehaven team. Whitehaven.
Don't bite to it, Jordan. Don't race to it, mate.
I'm not
Jordan, right? You've signed about 60 players between the two of the teams. I struggle to keep up with who's gone where.
All fairness, mate. I'll let you off. You're not wrong, are you? But yeah, in terms of Brad, I don't remember him at Barrow. I'll be completely honest. I remember him more in his stints at North Wales, more in recent seasons, where he probably was more noticeable, where first come to my attention, and probably when I was starting to work as I'm sort of doing now. And yeah, you're right, he's one of them. He seems to be the impact player. I think when I've checked his stats out, he doesn't have an awful lot of stats, because you mentioned he's sort of giving you them 10-15 minute stints. And he's a player that's followed Muzz around. I think he'd have come into Barrow when Muzz was coach there, first of all, based on the history when I've looked at. He's been at North Wales with Muzz for quite a long time, and had a loan spell at Workington for a couple of games last season as well. So, yeah, he's one of them that obviously feels really comfortable with Anthony Murray at when he's come that, and obviously has made the choice to come to Whitehaven. And if you can have these impacts, 10-15 minute, these big spells, and help some of the younger members of the team along next season, I think he'll come in and do a great job if that's what he's going to do.
Next signing for you is Kieran Tyrer, utility back.
Yeah, I think a name that was sort of floated about last year, I think, in terms of potentially coming to the club on loan. It never really materialised, and he ended up at going to Widnes, and I don't think he played a lot of games at Widnes. In fact, I don't think he did play at Widnes, but going into to go into that sort of environment with Alan Coleman at Widnes, who were playoff chasing, he'll have learnt stuff from that, and obviously he'll have learnt stuff from being under a very experienced, or being within the group at a very experienced Oldham side, and an Oldham side that obviously pretty much ran everyone out last season. And but I think still one of them is still looking to make his way into the game in terms of finding his sort of nailing down a position. It's a similar conversation to what I had with Rio Corkill a couple last Friday night, and I said he's probably one that he's probably found the transition to adult rugby tough. He didn't really nail down a place in that Raiders shirt after a promising start in them early games in sort of pre-season, was in and out of the team, and when he was in that team later on in the season, it was out of position for him. He was coming off the bench and sort of playing at prop, wasn't he, Rio? And nailed down a place in Jonty's side. Majority obviously Jonty's side at Whitehaven last season, but yet again, was playing with a broken hand in them latter weeks of the season. So he'll want an injury-free season, will Rio, and I felt like can try and nail down a place and nail down adult rugby. And I think Kieran's going to want to do the same wherever he's going to play. It seems like he's majority of halfback, and will have that. So I think there's going to be interesting in that halfback partnership for Anthony Murray in the sort of coming weeks and months, because I imagine it's going to be 3-4 going for only 2 positions to start. So yeah, it's going to be one of them that comes with a good raps, but still waiting to see what he can do at the semi-professional level.
Another utility back following him in is Ben Fisher.
Yeah, don't know an awful lot about Ben. I think he's been in the junior systems at St Jude's, Wigan St Jude's, come through there. Had some time at Wigan, had some time at Salford, but more recently he's been playing down under to try and gain more experience. Seems to be a goal kicker, which obviously there's not a lot of them around these days. It seems to be a sort of art that's dying out of the game. In terms of having goal kickers who will kick at 90+%. There's been a lot of talk about Harry Smith and what he brings to Wigan and obviously such things like that, but the struggle with his goal kicking previously. So anyone that can kick goals, you feel, will have a very good opportunity or very good, opportunity of coming into a starting lineup. But yeah, no, he's been down under, similar to what Rio from Millham has done. He's put himself in that sort of an environment where he's not going to know everyone, he's not with his mates, so hopefully that will have stand him good stead coming into this semi-professional environment at Whitehaven, going into 2025.
Another one through the door is hooker Luke Collins.
Yeah, comes with good raps from Cornwall. He's one of the OGs at Cornwall, and haven't seen an awful lot about him, but from what I've been told and spoke about, and read about, that he looked, it was one of the stalwarts in the Cornwall side, led from the front. Another dual code player, got a bit of experience in rugby union in Holland, so he's got himself about. He was English born, but family moved to Sydney when he was young, so he's played in some good junior systems, North Sydney Bears, and I think the West Tigers as well. Sort of rings a bell, as Balmain Tigers as it would be in the junior setup. So yeah, he's been through some good systems in there in around Sydney, and obviously come across to Cornwall, and now is going to test himself at you'd hope a slightly higher level. No disrespect to Cornwall, but obviously we a slightly higher level with Whitehaven next season, and see how that goes, because it's a position Whitehaven sort of struggled in the last sort of few seasons through injuries. Obviously, James Newton had an horrific ACL injury, and then sort of he was coming back. Marcus O'Brien that was then went off with an ACL injury Good Friday against Barrow in sort of 2023. Hasn't played again since. I think he was close to coming back at the start of this season gone, 2024, and then had a setback and just didn't see him at all in 2024. So, and then obviously Callum Phillips has been out on and off majority of the last two seasons as well. So, and obviously then we're not going to see Newts, definitely in the opening few weeks of the season, opening few months of the season. I know we're going to touch on that in just a minute, but so it's a position Whitehaven struggled in the last few seasons. We mentioned Alex Bishop earlier. He was sort of looking well at 9 before then he smashed his kneecap in. So it's sort of been a cursed position for Whitehaven in the last few seasons. They've gone through a number of different loanees or dual reg at 9. George Hill being one of them has obviously then gone on to do really well at Castleford in the last sort of 12 months. So it's just hopefully he can come in and sort of nail a position down. That's what he'll be hoping to do.
So another one through the door is experience centre Chris Taylor.
Yeah, great to have Chris back. I think he's a great lad. He's Chris. He's been he come through the junior system at Wigan, was the man of the match in the academy grand final at halfback. And played, and when he come to Whitehaven, he was signed as a halfback. He had 6 on his back, but he never really seemed to settle in the halfback role in the men's game. Obviously, everyone talks about what such a step up it is to men's adult rugby, but really found then his niche in its centre, and give a good 10 seasons at Whitehaven. Left at the end of 2014 initially and signed for Halifax, but only played for sort of 10, 11 games at Halifax, and before coming back initially on loan and then remaining from sort of 2016 until the end of 2023. And a lot of Whitehaven fans were disappointed that he left last season and was in at Workington. But when you've seen that the reaction that from now the Workington fans that he's left Workington and he's joined Whitehaven, they're just as disappointed. And I think going into a League One campaign, you really want some experienced heads in there, which they've now got with likes of Chris Taylor, Connor Holliday still remaining, Jordan Burns for Whitehaven to bring this young inexperienced side on. So yeah, it's great to have Chris back, and like I say, hopefully be one of them experienced heads that will help Anthony Murray, like I say, bring this young side on in pre-season in the opening weeks of the season.
So it doesn't feel right not mentioning this after some of the news that came out. I think he's might have semi-teased it with a signing video as well during the week. James Newton is joining the coaching staff as an assistant coach as well, and obviously he's touched on that he is hoping to be back playing in sometime in the future as well, which is positive to hear. And all credit to you as well for keeping him on board, keeping him close to it, because a long term. I'm just going from a long term injury, never mind a serious one like that, but that can mess with your head. And if you're away from the lads and you're away from the crack, you can feel a bit left out. So the fact that he's been able to do that is probably a boost for yourselves, boost for the players, and it'll be a massive boost for him.
Absolutely. That sort of tease in terms of the Chris Taylor announcement, I know what you mentioned, is that we sort of teased that because for the previous 5 or 6 signings, anyone that was teased, it looks like Chris Taylor, that. It looks like Chris Taylor, that. So we just wanted to put a different spin on it when actually announcing Chris. But yeah, obviously it's sort of it's touched on 2 birds with 1 stone, hasn't it? Because yeah, it's great to see James back. I believe he's this week as we speak. I think he's due to get his halo off, or he's going for the checkup. Whether then it means it could come off, which will be great news. Obviously, it's still a long road to recovery for the potential of him getting back on the field. And I think what's probably, and I might be putting words in Newty's mouth here, but I think what may have helped him is probably the fact that it was the end of the season, so he hasn't sort of missed. He hasn't missed anything, has he? He hasn't missed being in and around sort of training, or hasn't been in and around the sort of the squad, because it hasn't happened because of obviously it was the end of the season. So I don't know if say if it happened mid-season that he might have had a different outlook on it. But the fact that he hasn't missed anything is it may have helped him, and obviously he's going to be back in there, and it'd be great to have him on board. It was great to see that. He said that this is the route he wants to go down anyways once he finishes playing, going to that coaching role and getting that experience now, even if it's just while that road to recovery continues and he's going to be a part of Muzz's backroom staff, and if that road to recovery allows him back playing, and then he's great, he's got that experience in his back pocket. But then if he can't play again, he's already then back working in a coaching role, so he's not out to say 8 to 12 months and then trying to come back in and say next season or even in the next couple of seasons. So yeah, no, it's great to have him back involved, and I'm sure there'll be just as much banter from Newt as it ever has been, even though he's meant to be in a slightly more serious role next season.
So going away from one future rugby league Cumbrian legend to another, you're going to explain your background, Mr. Payne? Or the blurred background, is it now?
Explain my background.
Well, the one you had before, but obviously you've done me dirt. You're like, you're going to mention it, and I mention it, and then you've taken it off.
What did I do? There he is. The big dog.
The big dog, the stallion of a man.
The big dog, yeah. I mean, for you, you've coached this guy, just to put a bit of something on it. This is my brother, and he's been an absolute diehard at Warney Sense for years until Highfield stole him. And Andy Thompson came along, got the best out of him. It's over to you, Andy.
I didn't give him any trophies when he played for me, mate. To be fair, I was spite on my behalf. Tommy 2 trophies there. So yeah, any teams after a top prop, there he is.
Hey, Highfield had a great season. Probably one of the best seasons in their history this year. Close to it, anyway. I think it's worth an argument, isn't it? And I think for me, we'd better go and get. Was it players, player, and coaches, player? Players, player.
Players, player, and coaches.
Yeah. For me, it's the highest award you can get. When your players vote for you, I personally think that's the best reward you can win at the presentation night. And when he showed me that photo behind me, it took me about 20 minutes to send out a few messages. One of them slipped to Paul Crary, letting him know. Absolutely backhanded him. Not interested. He was asking me to watch some film. I was like, yeah. But he did credit IMP on a good season and stuff. But yeah, he's happy with his middles, I think, that's at the minute. Yeah.
That's all right. We said the latest episode of Corrie, mate. Dog kicking off.
I don't do Corrie.
I was doing an impression. We'll move on.
Joke hasn't landed, mate.
It hasn't.
I know.
And to be fair, it's not the first time a joke hasn't landed for me in the last couple of weeks, is it? So we'll move on.
Swiftly move on.
I'm on the naughty step again. Yeah. So we're moving to the other part of Cumbria. We've worked at a town. So they've been a bit busy. You were there for their big reveal night, Jordan?
Yeah, 21 players announced on the night. Obviously, some new signings, which I know we're going to run through in just a minute, but obviously some major re-signings there as well. I've sort of touched on one already that I spoke to Rio Corkill, and when I spoke to Rio, I spoke to him for Radio Cumbria. He was very, very disappointed that it wasn't for odd shaped balls because he really wanted to get a dig in at Dan. But yeah, he said, and I think we've mentioned previously, he said I don't know if he has still been listening, but he said when I spoke to him at Whitehaven's presentation night at the back in the last season, that he'd really enjoyed them and he enjoyed listening to them. He enjoyed the crack and the banter. So Rio, if you are listening, thank you very much. But yeah, no, it was great to crack with Rio. And I spoke to Rio because I know he speaks well. Obviously, I spoke to him quite a few times at Whitehaven last season. But also, I didn't. When Dan refused to travel to York for the summer bash a couple of years ago because he was too busy enjoying the bees in his broken fridge. I think that was the story, and that's the one you're still sticking to. I had Rio with me on commentary, so yeah, no, he's a great lad. He's Rio, and yes, I spoke to him. I spoke to Jonty Gawley, spoke to Graham Pearce. But like I say, yeah, the sort of a different way of doing it, isn't it? In terms of that, and it, some will look at it, it's great that Town were able to put a good event on, more than 250 people in their marquee, so definitely would have put a bit of money behind the bar, because I think it was a free event to get in, if I'm not wrong. But, definitely put a bit of money behind the bar. Other ways, in terms of social media engagement, was it the best? Maybe not, because, you're missing out on, in terms of, that sort of hit of announcing player by player, but... Town will have had their ways for doing it, and it worked for them on the night. Like you say, over 250 people of fans, sponsors, new sponsors coming on board, 20 odd players in there. Jonty Gawley done a Q&A. So no, it was a really good night in terms of the way it was organised, and obviously the way fans were kept in touch and and obviously involved throughout the night. So it was a good night, and like you said, they announced plenty of new faces.
We'll get started on them,
I'm
shall
going to
we?
touch on that one. So I was just going to say what Jordan was saying there. I was that guy. I was on their social media. Who is it? Who's coming in? Who's coming in? Who's next? Nothing. Like they just put it all on a wanna. About a night or two later they announced who was coming in. I think Whitehaven have set the bar in terms of social media and announcing how to do players. I think that's been pretty cool how they've been doing it. With the old music.
Was it like walking in the background and that? Yeah.
Yeah,
the hoods up and that.
Pretty smart.
Totally down to Lee McCauley, who obviously previously sponsored one of our episodes here on Odd Shaped Balls, and I've always give a big shout out to Lee that he's doing all that stuff volunteer as a lot of people do it, and obviously at this sort of Championship and League One level in terms of the social media, but has come up with some cracking ideas, still doing that. Obviously sort of changed it up. The first few lot they were in the Kells End doing that walk up the Kells End steps and walking across the recreation ground, and then a few more it was taking them into the popular side and sort of being revealed in front of the grandstand, and then the last few has been in front of in the grandstand itself. So always just sort of changed it up. And even when he hasn't been able to have a couple of players, I know when he wasn't able to, for example, Chris Taylor hasn't come up to do a sort of such things like that, being able to put them sort of clips together, which I was able to lend my voice to a couple of highlights from the back end of 2023. So big shout out to Lee for the work he's done. And like I say, it's massively helped across the socials, and obviously with IMG now having a big part of that, socials having a big part of your IMG grading, anything that the club can do or any club can do to try and help boost their engagement is going to be potentially massive towards the score, isn't it? So,
well, it's like, I know obviously we're going to go over Town, but we'll keep on with this for a minute. Like it's something we touched on during this week's episode with IMG, but yeah, just like quality little bits of work like that. It might sometimes go unnoticed, but you think it's just been quality, and then them little teasers as well. You're just seeing everyone guessing who it is, and all the comments and all the likes and whatnot. It's that's definitely driving your engagement up, like, and fair play for it.
Yeah, and I think it's helped massively as well. Sorry, that was just the missus saying the dog wanted out, so I've had to let him out go out the front door. So yeah, that was in terms of, especially I think it's helped with it's been, like you say, there's been a rebuild at Whitehaven, hasn't there? The club's had to strip back after what has gone on, and I think it's been a help of the two. And obviously, the Lee's done some cracking work with that, but also that the lads they're signing is, it's their mates. They're the ones that are liking and sharing, and there's been a lot of excitement when season tickets are announced and sponsorships. We've had in previous seasons, player sponsorships have probably been available even to the opening couple of games of the season. But this year, the club's obviously changed. They've gone with personal sponsors and sort of corporate business sponsors, most of them's all gone because it's local businesses seeing potentially lads that are working for that business, or it's family who have local business that are willing to back their family or their friend or the work member work colleague or whoever it may be. So it's great to see that, obviously, and I think that's obviously only going to help Whitehaven, hopefully. And that relegation, it sometimes can have a real negative feel, can't it, when you get relegated, and the sort of what you've got to try and do to get fans in. And in previous seasons, when you look at League One fixtures, it was West Wales, it was Hemel, it was we've been to some dark places going to League One, going down to leaving Whitehaven, going down to when there was South Wales Ironman, going to Merthyr Tydfil, and going to the likes of Hemel, and being probably more away fans, despite there's only maybe 10 or 12 years there, than before, then going to Hemel, potentially, and such things like that. But I think this season, the way Whitehaven's gone about it, it's really going to help them. And obviously Workington's gone a similar way in the last few seasons of trying to build that community sort of players and such things like that. So hopefully that it can be a kickstart for Whitehaven, and Town will be hoping the way they're going this season it can be a kickstart for them.
So we'll go into it then. Kiwi Levi Atiga has joined from Western Clydesdales.
Yet again, it's a player I don't know an awful lot about, but they showed some. He wasn't there on the night. They showed some footage. Centre winger seemed to be. He flicked between the two during the clips. But he seems a strong runner. I think he's only a young lad. I think Johnny Gawley wasn't on squad numbers to be released, but I think whoever done the slides at Town weren't sort of having that, and he was on the slide. So sorry to Johnny, but it seems like he's got the number 2 shirt. So you imagine it looks like he's going to be doing some wing play there. But yeah, he seems to be a young lad who seems to be excited and wanting to take an opportunity of coming over to the UK.
Another one through the door is Odd Shaped Balls Supervan, and completing his Cumbrian hat-trick, Rio Corkill.
Yeah, we've just spoke about Rio, haven't we, in terms of obviously what he's going to bring. Spoke to him for the radio, and I said it's probably been a difficult transition for him to adult rugby, and making that step up. Obviously, Dan called him a failure. I think that's a bit harsh. But I'm just
love you, Rio.
He's still there. I'm just making sure.
Hiding his face in shame there, isn't he?
I'm just letting Dog out.
But I think it's just and I mentioned, I think Rio sort of agreed. I think he knew where I was coming from. That, like I say, he didn't nail down that position in a Raiders team. He was sort of in and out of it. And obviously, what went on at Whitehaven last season, it would have been difficult. But I think he played. He said he was aiming for 20 games last year, and he ended up playing 27. And obviously, played through the pain barrier in the last few weeks at Whitehaven with a broken hand, helping Whitehaven fulfil them fixtures at the back end of last year. Nice of you to rejoin us, Dan. But yeah, it's
so you really just heard me putting your dog out. I do apologise.
but yeah, no, I think he'll be looking to nail down a starting berth week in, week out in that team next season, and trying, like you say, he's now completing the Cumbrian hat-trick. So in terms of, it's getting more and more common these days. I think it wasn't all that common, but I think it's becoming, especially in the last decade or so, they're sort of all just flipping between the two, aren't they? But yeah, no, it's going to be great to see what Rio can do, and like I say, he'll be hoping to nail down a place next season.
The other one joining, continuing with the wife swap sort of theme, centre Will Evans is going in as well after having a bit of a good off season with, especially with Wales as well.
Yeah, one of them players that I'm disappointed to see go. I don't think everyone who's maybe connected with the club will be disappointed, but on a personal level, I always had really good conversations with Will. Quiet sort of lad. Not your typical brash Aussie as you seem to get. You know what I mean? He's one of them that he's quite. He keeps himself to himself. But when you do have a conversation with him, he's a really good bloke. And I think as a player, yet again, he stepped up. I think in his first spell, obviously, we've seen him score that try of the summer bash against Workington, where he showed some good skill to put the ball down into the corner. Didn't work for him at Widnes. Had some issues. It was International Men's Day yesterday, so I don't think it'll too shame to say he had some issues with his head and decided to go home. Great, great that he realised that and recognised that, and he was able to take some time for himself. And he played some park rugby back home. He didn't think he was gonna continue playing professional rugby, but took some time out for himself. Come back to Whitehaven this season, and it probably hasn't worked the way he was wanting. Yet again, we're not going to go on it too much, but obviously, it probably didn't work the way he wanted, and. But he's had an opportunity there to stay into Cumbria, and really good off season with Wales, if you mentioned Andy. So yeah, he'll be one that yet again that, especially in League One, he should be one that should be probably a top player in Jonty's team next season.
And the Cumbrian amateur player factory's firing out another one with Don Weir from Kells joining them.
Yeah, seen Dom a lot of years at Kells. No relation, surname spelled differently, but
Who spells it the right way?
Well, whatever. I'm not having an argument with you over surnames.
To be fair, his is more Dom Ware.
Yeah, whatever you want. Yeah, but it's West Cumbrian, so it's Don Weir. But yeah, no, I think he picked up a few awards at Kells' presentation night. He was a busy lad on Friday because he was at Town's Reveal and it was also Kells' presentation night. So he done what he had to do at Town, stay for around about 20-30 minutes, and was like, right, I'm off. I'm going to go to Kells' presentation night. So he made sure he could join on the night. Like I say, picked up a few awards, and one of them that is probably felt he can do everything he can do now at an NCL level. And I think with Kells being relegated into Division 1, that he felt now the time was right to make that step up to professional rugby, and like you say, another one being churned out from the community clubs, the NCL clubs.
Prop Ross Ainley, another one who's joined from yourselves.
Yeah, we mentioned Ross, didn't we, a few weeks ago after he absolutely swept up at Whitehaven's presentation night. Now, I knew then that Ross wasn't staying at Whitehaven, and there was a pretty good chance that he was going to end up at Workington. And I said it was the curse, wasn't it, that, Tom Wilkinson picked up all them awards and then, sort of left and is now at Barrow. Josh Rourke picked up all the awards a couple of seasons ago and then left to initially to join Batley. Never played a game at Batley. He ended up at London and has done really, really well and is going to be at Wakefield next season. So I expect Ross to be in a St. Helens shirt in a couple of years' time, if that's anything to go by. Sort of that's with that. But, Ross has really took the transition to professional rugby really, really well. Probably took a little bit of time to find his feet. I think prop's probably the hardest position, I think, to step up. Maybe half back, I think, because it can be a different game. But prop, when you're going up against these former Super League stars, and if you've been playing community rugby, but in the last 10, 12, 14 weeks of the season, Ross Ainley was Whitehaven's best player. Week in, week out, Mr. Consistent, and was able to do that. And he'll be a real big miss at Whitehaven next season. And obviously, he'll be one of them yet again that's looking to nail down, I imagine, a starting spot as he did with Jonty, as he did at Whitehaven.
So our next one, Dan gave a little teaser to it a couple of weeks ago on our last transfer special. We've closed the door, Ran.
Close the door, Ran.
Jamie Duran returns from after a season with yourselves.
Jamie Doran. Not Duran. Doran. No, it's Doran.
Is this you pronouncing it wrong again?
No, this is us pronouncing it right. He's West Cumbrian, therefore it's Doran. But yeah,
right. So there's a band. No, I'm not having this. So you got the band Duran. I spelled it with you, though, isn't it?
Duran. Yes. So your point is mute.
Well, to be fair, how's it spelled? Not Duran. The surname.
Doran.
And how are you pronouncing it?
Doran.
Doran. So Doran with two O's. Doron.
To be fair, I'm going.
You've got your own alphabet, mate.
To be fair, I'm going against my own argument here because we previously had Lee Duran, which former witness, which was also spelt the same way. So whichever way you look at it, I think it's from where you're from in the country, but it's Doran.
So, yeah, we'll agree you're wrong then. So yeah, class half back. I think. Obviously you touched on last season. He had a bit of an injury fuse. We've spoken in the past. I'm a big fan of his, and I was hoping maybe we might have seen him in a Barra shirt one day, but I don't. It's looking less likely now, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up playing football with Jamie, so I've known him since I was probably 6 or 7 year old, and then to see him, as I did, a Whitehaven lad who made his debut for Wigan in the Saints Wigan derby, wow, lad done good. And obviously he didn't make that grade at Super League, but then had a stellar Championship and League One career at Workington before making that obviously move to Whitehaven a couple of years ago, and done absolutely nothing wrong in a Whitehaven shirt, led from the front, and one I'm really, really disappointed that we weren't able to keep at Whitehaven, because when he left Workington, he said he always seen himself playing for Whitehaven, but it would have been, he wanted to end his career at Whitehaven, and you know what, he may come back, but at the moment he's at Workington, and we'll be there for the obviously for at least this season.
So being seen maybe sulking about the cold weather, maybe trying to acclimatise, is another new signing, Cooper Howlett from another one from Western Clydesdales.
He's a tall bloke. Christ, he's tall.
We're talking Gary Barlow's son tall, or
you might have to give some context to that. In fact, no, people can find it. We'll leave it at that. No, he's a tall bloke. Done nothing but complain he was cold. And it hadn't been that cold at this point. I bet he's been cold the last few days. Jesus Christ, it's been cold. But yeah, no, yeah, again, they showed a bit of a video, but obviously he was there in the room on the night. Forward, yet again, looking to try and, cement a place coming over to the UK game. I don't know an awful lot about the comp he's been playing in. So I don't know if it's Queensland Cup or whatever it may be, but yeah, it's he's going to be one of them. Obviously, Ashley Kilpatrick, who's been a part of the job swap, wife swap, he's gone over with Jonty. He's going to continue working with Jonty. It seems in bringing some players over. He's got a lot of connections down in Australia. He tends to how Whitehaven would able to bring quite a few Aussies in over the last few seasons. So Jonty's going to want to continue with that, and he's one of them that he's the next one off sort of Ashley's travelator of Australians.
And a second amateur coming in is Cole Walker-Taylor from Loughborough as well.
Yeah, seen a lot of Cole last few seasons. Was a couple of years below me at school. So, sort of known of him for a while, played for the school team at St Benedict's. But then, yeah, been at Loughborough for a lot of years. I think he's played community lines as well, continuing the tradition of what Whitehaven started obviously earlier this season in terms of bringing a lot of community lions up, and Workington's now continuing that. But yeah, he's one of them that he's quite a solid fullback. Whether he's going to play there for Town, I'm not quite sure, but there's a couple of options there for Workington in that fullback. But he'll be wanting to make that fullback berth his own. Goal kicker as well. So again, we mentioned goal kickers earlier on, so that might go in his favour. Obviously, we'll only come out and see in coming weeks, but yeah, he's been a real solid player for Ian Rooney's side at Loughborough in the last few seasons, and probably one of them that now feels he's done everything he can do at the community level. Play community lions. Been quite successful up at the Brow in terms of the NCL. So yeah, now feels the right time will be to step up, and he decided to do that at Working.
The last one from this week's episode of Wife Swap is Guy Graham from Haven, front rower.
Yeah, guy that's obviously left Whitehaven following the issues that had went on, and went back and played some games at Carlisle Rugby Union over the last sort of few months. But a player that stepped up from Rugby Union initially, having not played an awful lot, if anything, of Rugby League when he made that transition over. And made that transition really, really well. Got stronger and stronger season by season. Initially under Gary Charlton, but obviously under Jonty in the last few seasons, become a real mainstay in that side. And a side with a Whitehaven side without Guy Graham was a poorer side in the last few seasons. So yet again, shame that he wasn't able to stay at Whitehaven. Obviously, there's not a lot of players that have stayed at Whitehaven this season, of course, but he's one that I think will be missed in and around that middle, and Workington's got themselves a very, very good prop forward.
Kane Barnes also returns to Town after a season at Seaton.
Yeah, a lot of talk about Kane, whether he was going to be at Workington. There was rumours throughout the last sort of 18 months or so that he could end up at Whitehaven, whether that was serious or not, or was it just a cellar-filled rumour mill in sort of full swing. I'm not too sure, but yeah, he was one of them that he took time out of the professional game, and when asked what he'd been doing at Town's big reveal on sort of Friday night, what have you been doing? What have you been keeping yourself busy with? And even gone gym. One of them. He wasn't. I think he'll be quite happy to get back in amongst that setup at what is his hometown club, and get back to playing some professional rugby league at Workington next season.
So one thing I found, like, it's a bit uncommon really, was they announced the trialists, didn't they, as well? They've got 8 on trial during the off-season and that during pre-season. So we'll go through them. You've got Liam Aspin, Reece Stanton, Fraser McNee, Tice Walmsley, who we had a crack about just before we came on here, Spencer Fulton, Brad Long, and 2 lads I've seen play quite a bit over the last, definitely one of them is Ross Bird, who came from Dalton. He's, from what I've seen, when he full-back and everything, like a cracking player. He's got the pace, he's got talent, and he's unstoppable when he gets going. If you do want to watch him, I think you'll probably be able to see a few. I think there's LA12 streams as well. They did a lot of Ulverston's games from last season, but they'll have a few of the Dalton games on there, and they're playing in the playoff final as well. So I know that game's been streamed as well, so you'll be able to watch him if that's something you want to see. Town fans before the pre-season friendlies. Another one is he's a cracking lad. He's someone who he's played for me over the last 3 or 4 years when I've coached him. He's Finn Goodins. Play fullback, and he's an outside back as well. And yeah, he's not like a fridge, powerful lad, fast lad, bit of a shit house as well. I think if he can, if I mean this lovingly as well, if he can, he deserves the opportunity, and if he can earn a contract there, and I think he'll quickly become a fan's favourite. You might have to invest in the factor 50 for him, but yeah, I think he's in for a treat if he can earn that contract.
Is he up to Ryan Johnson levels of shithousen?
So I'll give him in his centre. So I can't remember who it was against. I might have been in the semi-final before the lads made it to the final. I think there's a bit something went on. I think someone got tipped on the red or out like that. Right. And him in his centre, Cam McDermott, going for the video ref in an amateur game, giving the old video ref, waving imaginary cards and everything like that. I'm just sat there belly laughing. Absolute pair of them.
So, yeah, he's up there with that level of shithousery.
Yeah, he's there.
He's fair with it. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you know a few about. I know a little bit about Brad Long and Fraser McNee. My majority of the games I've covered in the last couple of seasons for NCL when I've been doing work for Radio Cumbria or just going as a fan. I've either been at Egremont or Hensingham, and Brad and Fraser have come through at Egremont. Brad's big, powerful forward. Doesn't take a backward step all too often. And Fraser McNee's Scottish, I think, with a background in rugby union. He's played Scotland students and has played, or it might have been like a Scottish University or Scotland students. I'm not quite sure which one it was, but then has played as a fullback or a winger at Egremont, and I think he's played fly half at Egremont Rugby Union. So he might have that in his game as well. I'm not too sure if he could make a transition into a rugby league halfback, but yeah, he's got pace to burn as Fraser. So if he can find a gap. He'll find some space there as well. And then one which really surprised me on the night, because I really wasn't expecting him to rock up, was Tice Walmsley. Know his dad reasonably well through his dad Wamo was a local councillor up here, and I've mentioned once or twice about the Tubby Rugby, and he was the one that set that up. And his lad's on that journey, I think, turned 16 only later this month, so I don't think he'll be doing an awful lot with Workington in terms of looking towards or earning a contract or anything like that, although I may be wrong, but I think he's just looking to come into a professional environment and continue his rugby league rugby league education. He's has been and he's in and around the Wigan Warriors scholarship as well, and I think Wigan are quite happy for him to go into there and get that experience of a rugby league environment, as well as continuing his local stuff, sort of playing. He's played for Hensingham and Lauca in sort of different competitions in the last few seasons, and he's been playing, like I say, at Wigan for I think the last 12, 18 months as well. So one of them that could be one for the future, but yet again, he's just wanting to continue his rugby league education, and it seems to be a lad he's got his an experience head on some young shoulders there, and knowing what he wants to do in the future, and he's finding any way to try and take that opportunity. So while it's not a name for now, and maybe not expect to see him in a Workington Town shirt in the next going into maybe pre-season. I think he's just there to train. It was good for him to get that exposure, similar to everyone else that's going to be involved in Jonty's squad going into pre-season with the trialists.
So we've had a little bit of breaking transfer news. I say breaking. This is probably come out Friday. We're recording Wednesday as we speak now, so it probably won't be too much breaking by then. But he's not. This is twice he's done this now, hasn't he? Oh yeah, bring it up. I've got the background sorted out, and
he's not even looking at you.
no, he's in a world of his own here, isn't he?
Penny, are you still there?
Yeah, what?
Where's your background gone?
Oh, for the breaking news?
Oh, the breaking news, it's not going to be breaking, but yeah, where's your background gone? This is twice he's done this to you tonight, hasn't he? Absolutely done you dirty. There we go. For those that are watching, you'll now see that Dan's got a certain tower up that belongs in a certain country south of England. This is news that's been sort of teased for the last few weeks, gents, hasn't it?
Yeah, we're hoping to get a guest on the podcast sooner rather than later, before he takes his trip over to Germany, as you can see. Obviously, that's the Eiffel Tower. He's not going to Paris. It's been announced now that Ellis has officially signed for Toulouse on a 2-month trial basis. So he's taken a punt on himself in the full-time game. I'm not. It's not even really a secret, is it? I think we were just trying to play it right and wait for the official announcement to come. But it seemed like every man and his dog knew that he was signing for Toulouse. And that's the path that he's now taken. And we do hope it works out for him. And we will get his say on it. We hope. We know, as far as we believe, he goes out at the start of December. So we're hoping to catch him before he travels over to Toulouse to start his next journey. And looking forward to speaking to the main man himself.
Yeah, it's a well-deserved move for him. He's had a cracking season for us. Well, cracking couple of years for us, to be honest with you. It's sad to see him go, but you want to see it work out for him as well. Fair play for him taking a punt on himself.
Absolutely. Obviously, we had him at Whitehaven. Left initially, joined Rochdale. Decided he didn't really like it at Rochdale. I think that may have been come around with the sort of departure of when Carl Forster left Rochdale as player coach, and Carl had ended up back as a player at Whitehaven in that 2019 season. That Ellis had come back as well, and then obviously signed for Barrow in the last couple of seasons, and Crest has made him into that middle forward, hasn't he? Where he was a back rower at Whitehaven, and he sort of really took to that transition really well. And I think Crest has said to him from day one, didn't he, Dan? That I see you as a prop forward. I don't see you as a back rower. I see you as a middle forward. I see you as a prop, and give him that number 10 shirt, and he's just took it and run with it, hasn't he? Anytime I've seen him in a Barrow shirt in the last sort of 2 seasons, he hasn't looked out of place in the middle, and obviously you two have seen him a lot more than I have, and he really has stuck to that well. He's stuck to radio as well hasn't he, with you, Danny? So we all know we all know that Ellis likes to have a crack in a conversation, which is why we're hoping to get him on, of course. But when he hasn't been able to be involved, I know he's been alongside the radio with you and Becca there as well, and getting the occasional dig in as well. As Ellis as he would do, but we wish him really well. He's a great lad. He's a cracking bloke, and like I said, we wish him well and hope he can secure full-time rugby for himself, because it's nothing less than what he deserves.
Yeah, we said for a while that I personally think, from what I've seen, he's one of, if not the best forwards in the Championship that hasn't had that Super League experience. And I think he really will, and I think it's the right move. He's took a punt on himself, and I do think he can make it at the top level. And I say the top level, he's still going to be in the Championship, but he's going to be in a full-time environment. I think that's the difference, and I think to get himself in that environment, that's the next step to go towards the Super League. If it be with Toulouse, or if it be with somebody else, I'm sure Ellis is destined for the top. I think he's going to. I think he's going to be a good coach as well. We've seen what he's done off the field. His contact list is immense. Like, his phone book is unbelievable. He loves making friends. He's a very likeable guy, and I think that he can quite easily take to the coaching game when his time's up playing, and he'll have a ridiculous phone book. And he's taken himself all over not just the country, but now all over Europe to make some more contacts. So it'll be interesting to see how his career pans out over the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of basically echo what you were just saying there. Might be saying it with the old rose-tinted glasses, but for me, probably the best front row in the league. We've seen some of the stuff he pulled out this season as well. Like, I think we were on comms when I think he received the ball from kickoff, and he just went straight away and put the ball down the wing, did he? And then we had that breakaway try. It was just his ball handling that game. I was joking around saying put him in a 6 shirt when I think we had a bit of an injury crisis. And it's not only just a big loss for obviously, from a playing perspective, but like you touched on there, the community side of it as well, all the stuff he's done.
Yeah.
I remember, I think he came off injured, and he did a lot with the advantage sort of stuff with a few of the disabled lads and everything like that as well. And one of them comes over, gives him a big hug, and makes sure he's all right and stuff like that. So his relationship across the community and everything to do with Barra, it's a big loss for the town and for the obviously from a playing perspective.
Yeah, I mean that's two big losses that the Raiders have had in the advantage team now in the last few seasons, isn't it? Because obviously T had a lot to do with the advantage sessions as well that obviously the Raiders they've got, and obviously with that, so and then obviously Ellis has stepped in. I know Anton Araya when he was here as well had a big part to play in that. So it'd be interesting to see how obviously the Raiders can get in with that. Obviously, whether it be within that, but yeah, he's going to be a real big miss. I don't think it'll be Kingy. While you were doing that, just I think Kingy's got his day job. Although whether that's going to work for him, but especially I think, and I may be wrong. You can shoot me down if I say this. I think Kingy's still going to be based up here. I say up here like he's living next door. No, I mean up in terms of him up in Whitehaven, but so I don't think it'll be Kingy. But yeah, no, he's going to be a big miss. You mentioned in the community and be a big miss in Paul Creddy's squad next season. Well, is it going to be next season? Because while we wish him well, if it doesn't go well, is it going to be could he be back in a Raiders shirt? Dan, behave yourself.
You look like you're getting fingered again.
You look like you're getting
You need to stop putting men behind you. It's not looking right.
We just every time we talk about these transfers, I just have all the next transfers lined up and a slip of the finger. That's all it is. Slip of the finger.
You're not like getting an action shot of them though. Not when it's looking like.
Stop.
Either I just don't do it. Put a club badge up. Oh, don't put a club badge up because that doesn't go well for you either. I think that's it, isn't it? Got anything else?
I don't think so. No, I think we sort of covered everything. Obviously, especially after we'd been off we'd missed the week before as well. I don't think we've missed anything. If we have, we're sorry. But yeah, no, it's been another busy one, hasn't it? And I'm sure it's going to be as going into pre-season. There may be a couple of more announcements coming from all three clubs over the next couple of weeks, I imagine.
Well, yeah, I imagine you'll have another 10 to announce or something like that. He's been very busy.
My lips are sealed.
Nothing. Get nothing out of here. You're tight.
You know this by now.
No cracks on Sean. No matter how many times we try. Nothing.
Nope, nothing.
I'll happen one day.
It won't.
One thing, One thing we will touch on. One thing we'll come back to on the next transfer talk to keep the people like Raider 91 happy. Evening. Ghost of Uncle Fester. Evening. We will talk about the dual reg. We'll talk about the dual reg and Barrow teaming up this year, and we'll talk about some potential loans coming in from the Super League. A lot of people have asked me about the squad stopping on 22, 23 players, I think it is this season. Will that be big enough to go through? Well, I'm sure Crester's got many more announcements which will be made official. I know the dual reg with Salford has already come out, but there's a few more loans in the pipeline. Hopefully a few season-long loans as well with other Super League clubs, and we can talk about that in the next few weeks.
Are you going to press him for that? Are you just going to do another interview where you ask him his favourite colour and what his ideal dinner date is and everything like that?
What his favourite, what he uses is his washing detergent and such things like that. Are you going to leave it easy? Even in Raider 91?
Yeah. I like to build good relationships with clubs, Andrew, just saying. Come on.
Let's move on.
On that note, yeah, we'll get in trouble again. Cheers, lads. Good night.
Evening.
Good night.
Bye, fellas.